My other, one of the, truly one of the great experiences of my life was to collaborate with Rusty and with Rand on a show called the Czar of Rock and Roll, you know. And that's most of the audience that saw it in New York. They kept coming back. Yeah, you were all in it. Well, it was really a great pleasure for me, and our friend David Hart had struck some sort of a deal with the Alley Theater in Houston that we're still checking out. And Russ, Rand, and I went down to Houston together to work on this show, and we did everything we could. We did everything we possibly could. We had taken basically a 70-minute musical and turned it into 95. We made it a 2-act musical. Rusty had done a tremendous amount of work creating new songs. Me and I and Rand would sit and talk to the critics and say, hey, we're really just workshopping this, you know? And that was kind of, you know, we tried to do everything right. Rusty knew exactly what rock and roll stations we should get on. He was doing all the homework that had to be done. And in the evenings, we would go to this bar. And the bar was really, it's called an ice house, and the reason we go there is, it's in Houston, it's just, well, it's the end of the universe. So, in Houston, they'd have this bar where you could, it was like 75 cents for a beer, or if you brought in your bottle of liquor, it was a quarter to get ice. So, hello, we're all there. And they treated us really well, and there was a woman who owned the place, and she'd never been to the theater, and she was going to see our show the night it opened. And Rusty and I were seated there, and we couldn't have been more excited. And the first act started, and it was the best it had ever been, because it was hard. We were doing a new show, really, in 3.5 weeks. And it's kind of like watching, when you got a new show, it's like watching like one of those rickety planes, kind of like trying to take off. But this time it started to soar. And son of a bitch, the first act worked. The first act worked. We're going to get by. They're not going to see our underwear tonight. Second act begins, and we're ecstatic. We're thinking, and it starts. And that's always been crazy. That never comes close, and it's going even better. And 8 minutes into it, we hear this noise, this kind of just vague retching sound. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the theater, by the way, is in the round. So Rusty and I are seated here, and we're looking across. The two critics are literally almost directly across from us, and seated behind them is our friend from the bar. The one who'd been helping us with all those drinks. The one who'd never been to the theater before. And she was just kind of getting a little sick, and then she threw up. And not just a little throw up, but you know, one of those where you go, oh, wow. Maybe she got rid of all of it. That'll be just one, it'll be one throw up. The entire cast began to gather. Everyone who was off stage trying to get her to leave. Just come on with us. No. She wanted to see the show. She wasn't going to leave. She's a trooper. She hashes again. Now the critics are kind of like turning around, and you can get a sense that the smell is permeating the air. At the third one, Rusty turned to me and he said, "Did you hear that sound? That's the sound of our careers going in the toilet."